What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Ideal Offseason. This is a little series that I came up with where I'm like, okay, for all these teams that don't have too much relevancy for the rest of the NBA season, I want to give those fans like maybe a light at the end of the tunnel, maybe a pathway that they can follow to try and find some hope again for a future season. In essence, what I'm doing here is I'm taking over as the GM for this team for this offseason and trying to figure out what the most ideal plan is. And that doesn't mean that we're going to win a championship next year. Most likely not, because these teams weren't even in the playoffs this last year. But what can we do to start getting this team moving in the right direction? I built this whole spreadsheet to help us work with it. You know, it's probably not perfect, but it's good enough for here. And before we get going with this, make sure you guys subscribe, like, do all those things. I'm trying to get to 1,000. Once I get to 1,000, I'll shut the hell up for a little bit, okay? But anyway, the Portland Trail Blazers had kind of an interesting year. They have a very weird roster. They moved on from Damian Lillard, right? We knew it was going to be some growing pains this year. It was not a pretty season. They ended up drafting Scoot Henderson, who I love Scoot Henderson as a prospect. I did think that he was the third best prospect in the class. Absolutely love Scoot. Do I think they did a very good job of helping him be successful in his first year? No, I really don't. I just don't think this roster was catered very well to Scoot. I mean, you have a lot of other ball handlers on this team in Brogdon, Simons, Shaedon Sharpe here, right? And guys that wanted the ball in Jeremy Grant and Ayton, who doesn't really work as a typical big man, doesn't really play the pick and roll very well. So he plays the pick and short roll pretty well, but he doesn't do much else. And that wasn't going to help Scoot Henderson in his first year. And that's kind of a bummer. But you know what? This is the roster that they had. They've found a couple interesting pieces this year, right? Like Shaedon Sharpe's kind of been in and out of things. Chris Murray's had like a moment or two for them. He was a late first-round pick. They traded for Delano Banton, who I've been huge on for a long time, and I'm glad he's finally starting to get some burn. He's been playing really, really well the past couple weeks. Reith has been awesome for this, and Kamara was an awesome find for them that they got as like, I think he was part of a trade, right? I think he was part of a trade that they got him, but he's a rookie as well. So there's a lot of interesting pieces that I want to make sure that I develop on this team this year, and that's kind of the focus of things. We can also look at the draft picks that we have this year and the tax situation. This team's paying a lot of money to be bad, which is unfortunate. We'll try to fix some of that up. But, you know, it's not the best haul of, like, draft picks either. The good news is they have their own pick with a little bit of a contingency. So basically, from now until 2028, if the Blazers are not a playoff team, they get to keep their pick. But if they fall out of the lottery, that pick goes to the Bulls. Like I said, anywhere from 2024 to 2028. So I just made that note. Odds are probably not happening next year or the year before. So we'll just presume that we're still working with that first round pick for now. But otherwise, as you see, like, we don't have an excess of draft capital whatsoever, so we got to be smart with those moves. As we get to the, like, year 2029, which is in the future, but as a GM, I got to be thinking of that. They do have some picks, so it'd be really nice if we could kind of build a foundation now so that we've already kind of got our established players and we've just got these excess picks so that maybe when we're trying to start being competitive, we can move these picks for, like, guys to help us win now. But for the time being, we got to make this team better and a little more hopeful for this next year. So this is the depth chart that I just threw together right now. As you can see, we already got 14 players on the roster for next season. So there's really not much to do in terms of like signings and everything, but we're going to look to move people. But I've got Scoot Henderson, Simons. I threw Banton in at the 3 just because I like Banton a lot, and I think he's talented enough to start. Then you got Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, obviously nice players. You got guys like Rob Will, who's valuable, right? Chris Murray, we want to get him some burn. When are we going to get Shaedon Sharpe some minutes? Because he's got a ton of talent. Kamara, we want to continue to develop. And obviously, we want to help Scoot Henderson. So when I look down this roster, there's an obvious person that I want to move first, and that's Robert Williams here. Duop Reith is a guy that's played really, really well for Portland this year. If you guys don't know, he has an incredible story. You should really go in and look into him and everything, but phenomenal story. Had a nice rookie year for Portland, and actually Scoot plays a lot better when he has Reith on the floor because he's more of a traditional like pick and roll guy, and Scoot Henderson is actually, I know people like to shit on him for how he's played this year, but he's actually like a pretty good pick and role player statistically. So I'd like to maximize that a little bit more, and that makes Robert Williams a little bit expendable. I think somebody would find him valuable, and he's still got 2 years left in the contract, and it's not a ton of money for a guy that's a starter quality player. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Spot Track. Spot Track's got this cool thing where basically you can manage a team and it can help you like work out the logistics of possible trades. And so what I want to do is I want to make a trade with somebody to take Robert Williams off my hands. The first team I think about for Robert Williams, for whatever reason, is the Miami Heat. Like, he just feels like a Miami Heat type player, right? Like, he really excelled in like a hard-nosed system like Boston. So I kind of want to see if I can't find a way to get him over to Miami. So obviously we could do something really simple like this where it's just Robert Williams for Duncan Robinson. I'm sure they wouldn't mind getting off of Duncan Robinson's contract. But it doesn't make a ton of sense for us to just like bring in that much more money. I just don't think that value is actually worth it. So I feel like we got to explore another way to do this. So something that interests me right away is this Caleb Martin deal. Caleb Martin is someone that they value pretty heavily. They'd have to know Robert Williams is a completely healthy asset and everything before they take him on, because he does have an injury history. But money-wise, the trade works. I would say Robert Williams is more valuable than Caleb Martin. Robert Williams, when healthy, is like a Defensive Player of the Year type candidate. Like, that's how good he is. And the Heat don't exactly have first-round picks that they can just throw around. And I'm not even necessarily looking for that, because I'm also asking them to take on quite a bit of cap space. I think Robert Williams gives them a clear backup center role that they've needed for a long time. I think this gives them a really interesting option and just kind of a dog to have on the team. So I like this a lot. I would still want them to give me some sort of draft capital, though, for Robert Williams. But since they don't necessarily have that, I think that they should have to give us Nikola Jovic. I think something like this is interesting, where we could develop maybe a floor spacing, like ball handling 4 in Jovic, and we can just have a guy that's going to be a dog right away for us in Caleb Martin. Or maybe we're even flipping Caleb Martin at some point too. So maybe we got to get a third team involved. What if I got the Minnesota Timberwolves involved? Like, I feel like that's a better place to direct Caleb Martin to, and maybe a way that I could get a possible draft pick out of it. Minnesota obviously doesn't have a ton of firsts either. They have a lot of second-round picks and stuff because they traded everything for Rudy Gobert, but, you know, a couple seconds might be good enough for me, in all honesty. The more I'm looking at it, though, I just don't know what I'm getting from Minnesota that makes it worth losing Rob Will. Like, I feel like I got to find a better way to maximize the value out of this. What if I could get the New Orleans Pelicans involved somehow? Because I get the idea that they would like to move on from Valanciunas, or just have a reliable backup center behind Valanciunas, because they haven't really had that yet up to this point. And they've got some interesting players that I wouldn't mind developing on this team, man. Like, so maybe we try to get something to work here. So let's throw Rob Will in, and then what happens like a Dyson Daniels or something like that? Like, he's a nice wing that I like a lot. The money doesn't quite work yet, so we'd have to throw in something else, like let's just say it's EJ Liddell. Okay, so we've got something there money-wise. The Pelicans also have a ton of draft capital. They also have this Milwaukee pick that's protected 5 through 30. That's not as interesting to me. But what if we took on like the Pelicans, like 2025 pick? Like, they're probably not looking to get that much for it at this point. So what if we presume that we're getting a 2025 first round pick, Dyson Daniels, and EJ Liddell for Robert Williams, and we send him over to New Orleans? They get possibly even a starting center that they find valuable. Him next to Zion is a very small front court, but, you know, centers, there's just not going to be a ton of availability for it this offseason. Like, if we go to the center right here, like, it's going to be Valanciunas, Nick Claxton, so, like, you can try to go after those guys like a Hartenstein, but after that, you're getting into, like, more of the backups. So there's really not much of an option outside of Valanciunas, but we know the upside of Robert Williams. So I feel like this is an easy thing for both teams, so I'm going to process this trade, and we're going to say this went through. Alrighty, so Robert Williams is off the team now. That clears up a little bit of cap space for us, which is nice. Like, as you can see, we now have a little more luxury tax room. We're going to move our boy Duop here into... I hope I'm saying that right. I mispronounce names all the time. Y'all can let me know. I promise you I'm a better basketball coach than I am a literary genius. As you can see, I'm great with words as well. So now we're adding EJ Liddell to the roster, as well as Dyson Daniels. So EJ Liddell is on the team, as well as, you know, we'll throw Dyson. Like, Dyson can go here for now. That's kind of what I'm thinking. We've also added a Pelicans 2025 first round pick to our disposal. So we have a full roster now. I'm not done making moves. We're going to try and make another move or two, but we have an excess of young, hungry players right now. Like, there is a lot going on here and a lot of minutes to go around to a lot of guys that we want to develop, right? We want to develop Banton, Kamara, like Simons is here on the team, Shaden Sharp, Dyson Daniels, obviously Scoot, right? Like, it's an interesting roster, man. Looking at the guys that are going to fall off the books, Brogdon's going to fall off after a year, so I'm not worried about having him on the roster next year. I wouldn't mind having the veteran presence anyway, plus he said in real life that he doesn't mind playing in Portland. Going to have to re-sign Banton, assuming he plays well. I'm not too high on Jabari Walker personally, but for now, he's going to be on the roster unless we can figure out a way to combine him in another trade. The next guy I kind of want to move, though, is Matisse Thybulle. Like, that's just a guy I don't feel like necessarily needs to be on this roster. I like Matisse Thybulle, but I feel like we can get some other capital for him, like, right now. If we can find a team to just kind of absorb his contract, because he's a great defender, and having a guy that can play defense and shoot a little bit. Because for those of you that don't know, Thybulle hasn't been, like, abysmal as of late. Like, last year, he was actually, like, a decent three-point shooter. This year, he fell off again a little bit, but maybe some consistent minutes or something on a championship-level team. I think we try to find a way to move Thybulle to one of those. So the question is, what's a team that could use a Matisse Thybulle? Like, maybe the Memphis Grizzlies? They need wings really bad, right? And guys that can play defense. So maybe we look here. What do they have for draft assets? Like, they could just give us, like, a future second-round pick and just take on his contract for us. That could be a valuable addition. I know that they want to maintain cap flexibility, but Matisse Thybulle, at least for, like, how much time is left on his contract, 2 years, a guy that can really come in and be a lockdown defender on this team, like, that could be something that could be kind of valuable to them. We're going to assume that they're going to decline Luke Kennard here and decline Yuta Watanabe. So what do we have to do to get him over here? I don't think there's anything that we can really do, or we don't take back quite a bit of money. So I think we got to find a different team than Memphis too. So here's what we could do with the Utah Jazz, who could use a lengthier defensive wing on their team right now. We can take on some of their non-guaranteed contracts in Omer Yurtseven. And we could also just assume that Darius Baisley and like a Kenny Lofton Jr. would be on here. It's all non-guaranteed money. The system doesn't allow me to like guarantee their contracts because they have a trade restriction until 6/12. This would happen after the fact, so it would be okay. But we would throw these guys in and then basically just renounce all of their rights and just take some draft picks from them. And Utah has a plethora of picks to choose from. Mostly first-round picks, honestly. So honestly, just give me your 2029 second-round pick. I'll call it even, my guy. And just like that, I have a Jazz 2029 second-round pick, and Matisse Thybulle is no longer on my team. That clears up a little bit of playing time for guys like Kamara, Shaedon Sharpe, Dyson Daniels. And now here's the interesting question. What do we do with guys like Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant? How important are these guys to this team? Jeremy Grant's 30 years old now. He's obviously had some really nice NBA seasons, 21 points a game this year, shot 40% from three. Awesome. I like Jeremy Grant. He probably makes a bit too much money, but it's not the worst idea to just have someone that can help Scoot Henderson develop and just be a good NBA player around him. So I don't hate that idea. What I don't necessarily like is having guys taking away like touches from guys like Scoot Henderson, and that's kind of what Simons does. Simons can play off ball, but like I don't know, because Simons is such a good player in himself right now. So like what do we do with these two? How do we figure out a way to make all of these guys coexist on one team? Anthony Simons is going to make a lot of money over the next couple of years, and he's a younger player himself, 24 years old, having a great NBA career so far, man. But I feel like in order to let the other guys develop, I feel like we got to take one of the cooks out of the kitchen. I feel like now's the best time to trade a guy like Simons while his value's like probably at an all-time high. I mean, where's his like per game numbers right here? Yeah, like you're getting 22 points a game. I know you're getting good shooting. Yeah, 38%. This is the best he's ever had. 5 assists a game. The turnovers are higher than ever, but we can talk someone into taking this guy. Alrighty, so we need to make a trade then, and the team I think about trading Anthony Simons to is the Orlando Magic. They could use a scorer on this team, a shooter, and a point guard. Makes a ton of sense. They're not in the same conference. We're willing to do business with you guys. We send Anthony Simons over here. Immediately, my eyes go to Jonathan Isaac. Non-guaranteed money. We don't even have to take him back if we don't want to. So let's throw him on there. Let's renounce some of these rights right about now. All right, so I renounced all the rights, and instantly we have a trade that works. But we're going to get more than just Jonathan Isaac out of this deal. What do the Magic have for draft capital? That's what I'm kind of interested in. They have a 2026 pick that's either Phoenix or Washington. Washington has the right to swap its 2026 first-round picks for selections 9 through 30 if Washington has not conveyed its pick. Okay, that's a very complicated pick, but it's them or Phoenix, which is kind of interesting. They also have their own first-round pick in 2026, which we can get because they have their own 2025 pick. So I think we at least want that one. I think I kind of want both of these picks. I want both of these 2026 picks for us. Just, it's the best assets that they can give us right now, unless we just want, like, their 2026 and their 2028. Like, that might be more appealing to the Magic as well, because they're like, well, we're figuring we're going to be good for a long time after this. So at least, yeah, I think that's probably the better route to go. So let's assume we're throwing in 2 first-round picks here, a 2026 first from Orlando and a 2028 first from Orlando. I think I'm going to ask that they take on Rupert as well then, just because I'm talking to them and I'm like, okay, you guys also have to take this money off my hands in Rupert, unless, would I rather them take somebody else off my hands? I'm just kind of looking through my roster and I don't think so. I think everybody else I want to keep or do something with for the time being. So this is the trade that we've executed on. We are taking back Jonathan Isaac, who we're immediately going to release. Jonathan Isaac isn't going to be part of this team. We're getting this team below the salary cap. I know that's not the most interesting thing for Anthony Simons, and we're not getting any immediate reward right now, but we're getting stuff for the future, and we're saving ourselves some money because we're not good right now anyway, and I have to run this team as well. And honestly, 2 first-round picks is a lot to give up for people right now, man. Like, Pascal Siakam, who's an all-star, went for 3. So, like, it makes a ton of sense that we would get 2 first-round picks for this thing. So, Anthony Simons, sorry to all the fans out there of Anthony Simons, he is off this team. But you know what that does is it gives us room to, and let me just go clear this. This gives us the ability to move Shaedon Sharpe up to here. I also don't have Ryan Rupert on the team anymore, so I've just got these guys here. So what does this mean for us cap-wise? We now have a ton of cap space, which is awesome. Ooh, let me take Shaedon Sharpe off here. Dyson Daniels moves up, so he's got some minutes, and we've got a spot here. Okay, this is where we're standing right now. We have 3 open roster spots, which is good because we actually have some picks that we have to use at some point this year as well. And I have a solution for that as well to make sure that we can use all of them. But ooh, we don't need Dyson Daniels duplicated there. That's good. But yeah, so this gives us room for Shaedon Sharpe to have some minutes with Scoot Henderson. Shaedon Sharpe should hopefully be able to play off him. Delano Banton or Kamara are our wings for now, and we've got guys like Jeremy Grant and Ayton that can go get some buckets. Duop Reith is going to be able to get some burn. Chris Murray is going to be able to get some burn. Here's what I'm going to do now. Jabari Walker, I didn't even notice, his contract isn't guaranteed. I don't want Jabari Walker on this team anymore. Jabari Walker's off the team. I'm just not that big on Jabari Walker. I can't figure out what position he's supposed to be playing, and like he's sometimes a good shooter, sometimes not. I love his energy and everything, but it doesn't do it for me. I know EJ Liddell's not as good as him, and I'm not saying that he is, but his contract's guaranteed, so it's just going to be what it's going to be. We could probably say that we're going to cut him, but he's got 2 years left on the deal, and it's non-guaranteed going into the season after, so we can cut him then. All right, we'll see if he's got anything for this season. But we've got four picks that we can use now to fill out the rest of this roster, and so that's what I intend to do. So looking at just like the mock draft now, I kind of just want to see where people have us picking. Like a Donovan Clingan is like really interesting to me and really tempting because you guys know I love Donovan Clingan. I think that he's going to be able to come in and be an NBA starting caliber center, like probably not within the first year, but most likely within his second year. And I think he'll be a starting center in the NBA for a long time. I really do think that. So here's the question. Do we pick Clingan then with the hope that we find a way to move DeAndre Ayton? I know DeAndre Ayton's playing well, but like it's his play style, man. It's never going to mix with Scoot Henderson. So do we try to do something where we move Ayton like after the fact? Do we just kind of let him be the bridge guy for now? That also takes minutes away from Reith, but is Reith ever going to be a starting center? Probably not. And so that's where I'm like, okay, does taking Donovan Clingan with the 5th pick make a lot of sense? Some of the other ideas I have are like Stephon Castle here, Cody Williams, like guys that can come in at the wing for us right away that we need. Like that really interests me a lot. As much as I'd love to have Banton kind of getting his burn and everything, like does it make more sense to have one of those guys come in? I think where I lean for now though is I want to think very future oriented. And so I think because of that, I want to go find our center for the future. This means that we're getting a defensive center right away that can come in, make a difference, and we can develop him. And if he surpasses DeAndre Ayton at some point, he won't probably do it in terms of scoring ability and everything. But if we find a way to move Ayton at some point, because let's just be honest, he probably just isn't part of the future. You're not going to win with the style of basketball that he plays. I say that we take Donovan Clingan. Alrighty, so we throw Donovan Clingan in there. We know that the 5th overall pick would make this much money, and we get him on a 4-year deal. So now that we have Donovan Clingan on the roster, we are going to move him to the backup center for now. You know, maybe at some point he even becomes the starting center. That'd be a lot of fun. But for now, it's going to be Ayton going into next season. But we've got a center for the future there. We have used this pick right here. Now, we also have the Warriors pick, which currently is slotted at like the 13th pick right now. And I already know who I want. I want Dalton Connect right here. Let's get a floor spacer, a guy that can go get some buckets, right? A guy that can be coming off these pick and rolls and everything with Scoot Henderson, right? We want to be surrounding him with shooters now because that's what he didn't have this last season. We're trying to give him a better shot at this. We're bringing in a more experienced player that can help contribute right away. So I'm going to go get myself a Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect will make that much money for 4 years, and the question will be, can Connect start right away? And the answer is probably not. I'll err on the side of Banton for now, but we won't say that it's not possible. Just for right now, he's going to slide in right there. We used our 2 first-round picks on guys that we think will be able to play well with Scoot Henderson, because that's what I hate when teams draft guys and they don't like make moves to like surround them with other talent that like is compatible with them, right? I just hate when teams do that. And these are moves that I feel like will do that. Like Connect is a guy that should play with Scoot Henderson long term, right? He's a lengthier, strong wing that can shoot. That makes sense. Clingan, pick and roll center that could eventually be a hub. We saw them do it at UConn a lot this year. Makes a ton of sense to me. Dyson Daniels now, a shooter that can handle the ball a little bit, right? That can play some defense around him. I love that. Shaden Sharp has a clear access way to just getting more shots this next year. So I like this. Let's go find 2 more guys in the 2nd round then that we want to take some bets on. I also forgot to include these Magic picks here. So I know somebody was already in the comments saying it, all right? I don't need to hear it. We've got 2 more first-round picks now. So just calm down. Alrighty, so what would be the 34th overall pick, one of our 2nd-round picks? I'm actually going to take Baylor Shireman. I just think Baylor Shireman, kind of like Dalton Connect, coming in and being a wing that can shoot. We want to hit on one of them. We don't have to hit on every single person. They don't all have to be perfect, right? And so I want to see enough of these guys on this roster to see who fits long term. So we're going to say he's going to get $1.2 million for 2 years. That's where Baylor Shireman can fit in, and we'll throw Baylor right there for us. So that uses up this Hornets 1st-round pick right here. And then I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to have a hypothetical saying that we traded this 2nd-round pick for like cash considerations or something. We don't need this pick or anything. We don't need that many more rookies on here. I'd rather use this last roster spot to go bring another veteran onto this team that can, you know, help us out in the locker room a little bit more. So I think that's what I'm going to do. What position do we really need it at? Probably another guard on the team, another ball handler. That would make some sense to me. So let's go over to the free agency and see if we can't find a point guard. That would be interesting to bring in. I said point guard, didn't I? So like a Kyle Lowry, no, that none of those necessarily make a ton of sense. Dennis Smith, Aaron Holiday, Jordan McLaughlin, Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn is interesting. Chris Dunn's had like a decent NBA season overall this year. I know Chris Dunn isn't like a shooter necessarily or anything, but we can bring Chris Dunn in for like a minimum contract and just be a guy to come in and play some defense and just have some savvy on the team, right? He's never been a problem anywhere. I like bringing in Chris Dunn as a dude just to, you know, just mix it up a little bit in practice, play a little bit of defense with these guys, mentor Scoot a little bit. It's not a fun addition, but if we have to throw him in the game, like he's gonna be just fine out there. So Chris Dunn would be making that much money for 1 year, and there we go. So Chris Dunn can slide in here, gets another spot on the roster. Okay, So this is your Portland Trailblazers roster now. That took a little bit longer than I anticipated. I've actually been recording for like an hour, 15 minutes, something like that now, trying to get this one figured out. But let's do a quick recap of what all happened here. We acquired a lot more draft capital, right? Like we got a couple first-round picks coming in, a second-round pick or so. We cleared a lot of cap space. We got ourselves under the cap so that we have flexibility to make moves going forward. Most importantly, we cleared out space for other guys to have some success. Scoot Henderson is now the primary ball handler. That's awesome. We've got Brogdon coming off the bench, which is a super awesome bench guy to have. That is an elite bench guy to have. We might even be able to trade him in season should we want to, right? Like somebody will call for Malcolm Brogdon at some point. Shaedon Sharpe, now the clear starting two. He can go in. He can be the primary bucket getter this year if we really want him to. Delano Banton, he's playing the three right now. You guys could probably convince me in the comments that it should be somebody else, but I want to see what it looks like to have kind of a secondary primary ball handler out there. I don't know how that looks with Scoot Henderson. It might get complicated at times, especially when DeAndre Ayton doesn't have a ton of gravity to pull people from outside like the immediate paint, and that's why I think DeAndre Ayton's just a problem and not a long-term solution, but for the time being, he's what we got. He's pretty impossible to trade. We brought in guys like Donovan Clingan, who's hopefully going to be our center of the future. I truly believe he can. Dalton Connect, I think, will be a valuable player on this team going forward. Dyson Daniels is a guy we can develop, and we can continue to build on guys like Kamara. Maybe Baylor Shireman becomes something at some point. Chris Murray will have a chance to get out there. I like this team. I think we made some good additions. I think we set ourselves up for long-term success, possibly, and we didn't break the bank doing so. So this is what I think a nice offseason would look like for the Portland Trailblazers. Are you going to win a championship next year? No, but did you think you were gonna? So no, shut up. Just deal with it. But for all my Portland Trailblazers fans out there, and I know I was talking to one in the comments the other day, let me know what you think of this. Is this something that would make sense to you? Are you sad to see Simons go? I mean, I think getting 2 first-round picks for him for a team that's not guaranteed to be all that good all the time is honestly not so bad of a deal. So I like it a lot. I think that this would at least push them in the right direction. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.